Walk into any American grocery store this week. The bread aisle looks the same as it did in 1985. Wonder, Sara Lee, Pepperidge Farm, Nature's Own, Dave's Killer Bread, King's Hawaiian, Arnold, Great Value, Aldi's Lovin' Fresh, Martin's Potato, and the whole wheat cousins beside them. 12 familiar wrappers. What changed is what's behind them. The parent companies, the recall records, the class action filings, the ingredient panels longer than the recipe your grandmother used. 12 brands a traditional ingredient-first household would question, and only 5 that pass the complete accountability test. The winners stay hidden. Start with number 12. Number 12, Great Value White. This is the dollar and change loaf. Plain blue and white wrapper, cheapest thing in the aisle. The bread a parent grabs at the end of a long week because $1.48 fits the budget. That is a reasonable choice, and no one should feel foolish for making it. Here is where the label stops helping. Walmart does not tell you who bakes it. Multiple current reports and a 2015 glass fragment recall pointed to Bimbo Bakeries, the same company that owns Sara Lee, as the actual baker of most Great Value bread. That is disclosed nowhere on the bag. Flip a Great Value 100% whole wheat loaf and you find datum, calcium propionate, and potassium iodate sitting in the small print. A traditional Pennsylvania Dutch kitchen has one clear rule. You know who baked your bread. Here, you cannot. The practical check is simple. Read every additive past the salt line, then look for a manufacturer name. You will find neither answer on the front. The label says Walmart. The oven belongs to somebody else. And the next brand is not cheaper, it is just dressed up in a different color. Number 11, Aldi's Lovin' Fresh. Bright wrapper, exclusive to Aldi, a favorite of budget shoppers who assume that simpler stores mean simpler food. The assumption is understandable. Aldi built its reputation on cutting waste and cost. Here is the gap. Aldi does not print the manufacturer on the package either. The same 2015 Bimbo Bakeries voluntary recall that pulled Great Value also pulled Lovin' Fresh and Kroger brand loaves after a broken bulb sent glass fragments through several bakeries. Different bag, same bakery. The Amish value on this one is straightforward. Honest labeling is the first honest ingredient. If a store will not name the baker, they are asking you to trust the wrapper more than the process behind it. Do this in the store. Put the Lovin' Fresh panel next to a Great Value loaf and a Sara Lee loaf. The additive lists are near identical. That is not a coincidence. That is procurement. You are paying 3 different prices for something that came out of connected ovens. The retailer changes. The recipe barely does. And the next brand raised a generation of American children. Number 10, Wonder Bread. Red, yellow, and blue balloons on the wrapper. The softest slice in the lunchbox. The loaf that half the country grew up eating. The assumption is that it is just simple white bread and always has been. It is not. Wonder was picked up by Flowers Foods in 2018 out of the old Hostess bread portfolio, and the classic panel still lists datim, mono and diglycerides, sodium stearoyl lactylate, and calcium propionate as preservative. Historical formulations in the United States relied on potassium bromate and azotocarbonamide for that pillow soft rise. Most large American bakeries have phased bromate out, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified it as a possible human carcinogen back in 1999. Soft, white, and shelf-stable for 2 weeks is not preservation. It is chemistry. An Amish pantry values honest preservation, freezing, wrapping, baking today for today. The practical check on Wonder is to count additives past the salt line. You will lose count on the first side. The nostalgia is real. The recipe is not. And the next brand tells you it is healthy, right on the front. Number 9, Sara Lee Classic White. Nobody doesn't like Sara Lee. Voiceover of a generation of American kitchens. Everything about the wrapper says American brand. Here is what the wrapper leaves out. Sara Lee's fresh bakery business was sold to Mexico City's Grupo Bimbo in 2011. Sara Lee's American voice is now owned by the world's largest baking company, which is not American. The same company that bakes Great Value bakes Sara Lee. The ingredient panels are close enough that a Reddit thread from a former employee described the difference as minor, and Tasting Table and the Takeout have both traced great value bread back to Sara Lee production lines. Some Sara Lee varieties still list high fructose corn syrup, and the classic sandwich loaves carry datum and calcium propionate. The Amish contrast is the arithmetic. Paying $2.62 for the same dough that goes into a $1.48 loaf is not thrift. The check is one you can do in the aisle. Line them up. Same additives, different price, the American name, the Mexican parent, the same dough. And the next label uses a word that means almost nothing. Number 8, Sara Lee White made with whole grain. Same Sara Lee wrapper, but now with a whole grain badge on the front. Parents grab it because it lets them put whole grain into a child's lunch without a fight over crust color. Here is what the badge does not tell you. The Center for Science in the Public Interest read the fine print. Only 32% of the grain in that loaf is actually whole. The other 2/3 is refined, enriched flour. That is a legal claim, but it is not a whole grain loaf. A traditional food household lives by a simple rule. A half-truth on a wrapper is still a half-truth. The check is exact. Look for whole wheat flour as the first ingredient. If it says enriched wheat flour first and whole grain second, you are eating mostly white bread with a green stripe on the bag. 1/3 of the promise, full price for the whole loaf. 4 brands down, and here is where the aisle changes. The next ones sit higher on the shelf, cost more, and are protected by advertising budgets built on trust, which is exactly where labels start working harder than the recipes behind them. Number 7, Nature's Own Honey Wheat. Brown wrapper, cursive script, honey and wheat imagery, and for years the top-selling loaf bread in America. The assumption is honest and fair. Honey wheat sounds like healthy wheat. But the same CSPI analysis that flagged Sara Lee's whole grain claim flagged this one too. Nature's Own Honey Wheat contains more refined flour than whole grain flour, despite the beehives and wheat stalks on the front. Nature's Own is a Flowers Foods brand, and Flowers has faced repeated Fair Labor Standards Act settlements over its distributor classification model. $8.3 million in the Rosenbaum settlement, $9 million in the Reberg case out of North Carolina. A new case, Porteous versus Flowers Foods, was filed in Oregon in December 2023 and is still active. None of that shows up on the wrapper. The Amish value is quiet. An honest word does not need a picture of a beehive. The check is one line. First ingredient must be whole wheat flour, not enriched wheat flour. It's called honey wheat. Most of it is white. And the next brand is the one Grandma bought when she wanted to spend more. Number 6, Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse White. Gold script, Margaret Rudkin's 1937 heritage story, premium shelf position, a price that says quality. Here is where the heritage story runs into corporate reality. Pepperidge Farm has been a Campbell's Company brand since 1961. The farmhouse subline carries a clear, no high fructose corn syrup claim on the front, and for those specific loaves that is true. But the classic Pepperidge Farm white sandwich variety, sitting inches away on the same shelf, still lists high fructose corn syrup as its third ingredient. Both wear the same script logo. Many varieties still carry datum, calcium propionate, and sorbic acid regardless of the front-of-pack promise. A traditional food household understands the point instantly. Heritage is not a font. The check on Pepperidge Farm is which sub-brand you are actually picking up. Not every loaf is what the farmhouse marketing implies. The picture is 1937. The panel is 2026. And the next entry is the one wearing 3 different wrappers pretending to be 3 different bakeries. Number 5, Arnold, Brownberry, and Oroweat. Arnold in the Northeast, Brownberry in the Midwest, Oroweat in the West. 3 regional wrappers, 3 grandma-themed ad campaigns, 3 premium prices, 1 corporate parent. All 3 are Bimbo Bakeries USA brands. Bimbo's own press releases confirm it. The No Added Nonsense campaign was real and removed artificial preservatives from the whole grains line, but only from that line, not the full portfolio. Newer sub-brands like Grains Almighty use functional food language, gut balance, plant protein that reaches broader than the ingredient panels can support. A grandma-themed ad campaign is still an ad campaign. The Amish check here is small print. Turn any of the three loaves over. Find Bimbo Bakeries USA printed in the smallest legally required font. Arnold in the East. Brownberry in the Midwest. Oroweat in the West. One bakery. A quick like on this video helps more shoppers see what is actually behind these wrappers before they reach for the next loaf. Number 4. The whole wheat store brands with a recall history. Wonder, Great Value, Aldi's Loaf and Fresh, President's Choice, D'Italiano, No Name, and Country Harvest in their whole wheat versions. Brown wrapper, 100% whole wheat across the front. The healthy upgrade over the white loaves. The assumption is that whole wheat is safer. In November 2024, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency issued a recall covering 37 bread and bun products from Wonder Brands and Bimbo Canada for metal fragments. The contamination was traced to Sifto high-grade salt used across shared production lines. That was preceded by the 2015 U.S. glass fragment recall covering Great Value, Loaf and Fresh, Sara Lee, Kroger, and Nature's Harvest, all from Bimbo Bakeries. The recipe was not the problem in either case. The industrial supply chain was. Whole wheat did not make the salt supplier different. A small Amish bakery you can walk into does not recall what it can inspect by hand. The check is public. Search the FDA and CFIA recall databases by brand and year. Whole wheat, whole metal. Both possible. 8 brands down, 4 to go, and each one is trusted more than the last one you just heard about. Coming next is a healthy heritage bread with a settled lawsuit attached, a sweet roll that is not from where its wrapper says, and a family recipe whose corporate address does not match the story on the bag. Number 3. Dave's Killer Bread. Black wrapper, power seed, 21 whole grains and seeds, organic seal, non-GMO seal, prison rehabilitation founder story, $6 a loaf. The assumption is loud and reasonable. Organic plus high protein plus a rehabilitation mission equals the healthiest choice on the shelf. Here's the harder truth. Dave's Killer Bread was acquired by Flowers Foods in 2015. In 2022, a federal class action lawsuit filed in California challenged the front-of-pack protein claims on Power Seed, Good Seed, 21 whole grains, and Sprouted whole grain, alleging the numbers on the front did not reflect the protein digestibility-corrected amino acid score the FDA requires when a product touts high protein. Motions to dismiss failed in 2024. Class certification advanced late that year, and in March 2026, Dave's Killer Bread reached a settlement, reported in Law.com and confirmed by counsel at King and Spalding. That does not mean every claim was proven, and it does not mean the bread is not organic. It means the loudest number on the wrapper did not survive federal scrutiny. The check is what a shopper actually cares about. The protein number on the front is total dietary protein, not the usable protein your body absorbs. The story is real. Some of the numbers were not. Number 2, King's Hawaiian Sweetbread. Orange wrapper, Aloha Spirit, the Tyra family photo, sold on the promise of a Hawaiian bakery tradition from 1950. Here's the geography. King's Hawaiian is still owned by the Tyra family and still runs a bakery in Hilo. But the bread on shelves nationwide is produced primarily at the company's large facility in Torrance, California, disclosed on the company's own history page. That is not fraud, but it changes the story on the wrapper. Then look at the panel. The classic sweet sliced bread lists sugar as the third ingredient and, on many SKUs, liquid sugar, water, as a separate entry right after. That is sugar named twice, sitting alongside datum, sodium stearoyl lactylate, sorbiton monostearate, sorbic acid, and sodium silicoaluminate. A traditional household is not opposed to a sweet loaf. A sweet loaf can be honest. The problem is a sweet loaf marketed as everyday sandwich bread. The check is total sugars per serving. Line up King's Hawaiian against a plain sandwich loaf and it reads more like a dessert. The aloha is real. So is the sugar. And the last brand is the one everyone assumed was safe. The number one brand is not foreign-owned. It has no active lawsuit. It has no recent recall. It is the loaf a traditional food family would put on the trusted shelf, and that is exactly why it earned the top spot in this investigation. Number one, Martin's potato bread. Start with what is genuinely true. Martin's famous pastry shop was founded by Lloyd and Lois Martin in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania in 1955, and it is still owned and operated by the Martin family. The company markets a Pennsylvania Dutch heritage, and that heritage is real. Martin's makes the potato roll used by Danny Meyer, Shake Shack, and dozens of top American restaurants. The bread contains no high-fructose corn syrup, no artificial dyes, and is sourced non-GMO. That is a meaningful, verifiable set of promises, and no one should mock them. Now turn the sliced bread bag over. The current Martin's potato bread ingredient panel includes unbleached enriched wheat flour first, and then, after the primary ingredients, sodium stearoyl lactylate, mono, and diglycerides, calcium propionate as preservative, datum, guar gum, and calcium sulfate. That is not fraud. That is what happens when a family bakery scales into 50-state distribution and needs its bread to survive a truck ride and a 2-week shelf life. The front reads, "Famous Dutch Taste." The back reads like every other commercial bakery in the country. The teaching point is not that Martin's is dishonest. It is that the closer a loaf gets to needing datum, the further it gets from a bread anyone actually needed. The best of the 12 is still an industrial loaf. That is the trust gap. A real family, a real bakery, and a panel that has grown to match the shipping requirements of American retail. Which is why the accountability test has to reach further than familiarity. 12 brands were examined. 5 stood apart because their labels and their systems agreed. Best option number 5, Sara Lee Artisano Bakery Bread. This is the honest limitation entry, and it belongs on the list only for shoppers who cannot access a specialty bread aisle. Artisano's current formula carries no artificial preservatives and no high-fructose corn syrup, and it is available cheaply in almost every American grocery store. It is still a Bimbo Bakeries product, and some SKUs still list datum. If the choice is between Artisano and the standard Sara Lee Classic White sitting next to it, Artisano is the closer match to a recognizable ingredient list. The Amish value here is partial, not full, understandable ingredients, an honest label, but not a small bakery loaf. The practical check is to verify the panel every time you buy, because Bimbo has reformulated this line more than once. Availability earned it a place. Nothing more. Best option number 4, Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse Hearty White. Notice the specificity, not the classic Pepperidge Farm white sandwich, which still lists high-fructose corn syrup as its third ingredient. The Farmhouse subline is the one that carries the no high-fructose corn syrup, no colors from artificial sources front-of-pack claim, and shows a shorter, more readable panel than most mainstream loaves. Calcium propionate and sorbic acid are still present as freshness preservatives, and Campbell's is still the parent company, so this remains an industrial bread. The Amish fit is partial, closer than most of the countdown, but not the honest preservation model. The practical check is written on the wrapper itself. The word farmhouse has to be there, and the price is higher than the classic sandwich variety for a documented reason. Best option number 3, Arnold, Brownberry, or Oroweat Organic 100% whole grain. This is the specific organic subline, verified USDA certified organic, non-GMO project verified, no artificial preservatives, no high-fructose corn syrup, and confirmed by Progressive Grocer and Bimbo's own press releases. It is still a Bimbo Bakeries USA brand. It is still priced higher. It contains cultured wheat flour as a natural preservative, which is a functional ingredient some traditional food households prefer to avoid. Those are honest limitations. But the recipe reads shorter. Whole wheat flour is the first ingredient, and the certifications can be verified by any consumer through the USDA organic database. That closes several of the gaps that killed the classic Arnold, Brownberry, and Oroweat lines earlier in the countdown. The check is the seal, not the marketing word. USDA organic, not just organic. Best option number 2, Silver Hills Sprouted Power. This is a family-run bakery from Abbotsford, British Columbia, in business since 1989, now the third largest bakery in Canada. Silver Hills was the first bread in Canada to be non-GMO project verified. Their sprouted whole grains are certified organic. Loaves like the Big 16 and Squirrely show ingredient panels a shopper can read out loud in under 30 seconds. Sprouted whole grains first. No high fructose corn syrup, no artificial preservatives, no datum, no calcium propionate. Honest limitations exist and should be stated. These loaves are sold refrigerated or frozen. They cost more than a supermarket loaf, and they are not stocked in every store. They contain cane sugar and vital wheat gluten, which not every traditional household wants. But this is the closest widely available bread to the sprouted grain model a Pennsylvania Dutch or Ingredient First kitchen would recognize. Find it in the freezer case at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and select Kroger and Target locations. Look for the sprouted seal and the non-GMO Project Butterfly. The number one option goes further still. Best option number one, Food for Life. Ezekiel 4.9, sprouted whole grain bread. It ranks first for a reason a shopper can verify without leaving the freezer aisle. Ezekiel 4.9 is flourless. It is made from mashed, sprouted whole grains and legumes, not from milled flour. The current ingredient panel lists organic sprouted wheat, filtered water, organic sprouted barley, organic sprouted millet, organic malted barley, organic sprouted lentils, organic sprouted soybeans, organic sprouted spelt, organic wheat gluten, yeast, and sea salt. That is 11 items, and every one of them is a food. Food for Life discloses USDA organic certification and non-GMO project verified status on the wrapper. The Glycemic Research Institute measured the glycemic index at 36, which is why diabetes-conscious shoppers reach for it. The 6 sprouted grains and legumes together supply a complete plant protein. Honest limitations belong here too. It is sold frozen. The texture is dense and some children reject it. It costs more per loaf. It contains gluten and soy, so it is not for celiac or soy-allergic households. What it does not contain matters more. No preservatives, no dough conditioners, no high fructose corn syrup, no datum, no calcium propionate. The ingredient list matches the promise. The price difference between Ezekiel 4.9 and Wonder Bread is not a tax on rich shoppers. It is the price of a supply chain that fits on the label instead of hiding behind it. None of this means bread is the problem. Bread has fed working families for centuries. A slice of honest bread is still one of the most affordable, useful foods on the American shopping list. The problem is the gap between the wrapper and the system behind it. Foreign parents behind American brand voices, store-brand loaves and premium loaves coming out of related ovens. Datum and dough conditioners standing in for time. Calcium propionate keeping a loaf alive for 2 weeks. High fructose corn syrup buried past the 5th ingredient. Whole grain claims backed by less than 1/3 whole grain. Protein numbers that do not survive the federal digestibility rule. Recalls that traveled through the same industrial salt supply. Those are the patterns. They repeat across a dozen wrappers because they come from a smaller group of parent companies than most shoppers realize. Here's the checklist you can use at the shelf. First ingredient should read whole grain, whole wheat, or sprouted whole grain, never enriched wheat flour first. No high fructose corn syrup anywhere on the panel. No potassium bromate and no azotocarbonamide. Prefer loaves that avoid datum, mono and diglycerides, and sodium stearoyl lactylate. For preservatives, cultured wheat flour and vinegar beat calcium propionate and sorbic acid. Aim for total sugars under 3 grams per slice on any sandwich bread. Aim for sodium under 180 milligrams per slice as a baseline, adjusted to your needs. The ingredient list should be short enough to read out loud in one breath. Someone should be named as the bakery on the package, not just a retailer. Look for USDA Organic, non-GMO Project Verified, or the Whole Grain Council 100% stamp, and remember all 3 can be looked up. Share this with anyone in your life buying bread for children's lunches, tight grocery weeks, diabetes, heart disease, or pregnancy. They are the shoppers who pay the most when the front of the wrapper stops matching the back of the panel. Walk down the bread aisle tomorrow morning. The wrappers will look the same as they did last week. If the back of the bag is longer than the recipe your grandmother wrote down, put it back.